Oh, I think like many, as a small boy, hearing this story, and I think that's what just constantly, every generation rediscovers the Titanic, and it became just a challenge. I'm very competitive. I played sports, and I think watching others try and fail made it even more fascinating. But then, quite honestly, as you know, and the purpose of this new exhibit is to tell the true story. When I first found the Titanic, I couldn't tell the true story, that it was actually sponsored by naval intelligence to use the Titanic as a cover for a Cold War story of when we lost a nuclear submarine called the Scorpion, which had nuclear weapons. And so my job as an intelligence officer was to find the weapons, determine if the Soviets had been there. I had a whole series of orders I gave, but I needed a cover. And so we didn't want the Soviets to put a satellite on us, which would then follow us to where we knew our submarine lay. So it was actually President Reagan who approved this top secret mission and to use the Titanic as the cover. But naturally, I found the cover more interesting. So yes, it was an interesting period, and now to finally be able to tell the truth and also to talk about my dream as a child. So this was perfect.
You tried, of course, several times before to find it, so talk me through that moment when you first finally spotted it.
Well, I think it was down to the last second. I mean, I played college basketball, and I always loved scoring the winning goal as the buzzer went off. So very much the thinking we were going to fail again and join the ranks of the previous failed attempts, and then boom, there it was. So we naturally jumped up and down and acted very silly. But then someone looked up at the clock and said, "She sinks in 20 minutes." And that innocent comment, we realized it was totally inappropriate to be celebrating anything. So I stopped the ship and we went out, hoisted the flag of Harland and Wolff, and had a nice memorial service to commemorate, because we were now at the very spot. It was no longer lost. We now were at the very spot, and it speaks to you, as I think you'll see in the exhibit. It speaks to you.
I suppose you're really in a graveyard, aren't you, when you think about it?
It's a graveyard. And that's why I promised to never take anything. I saw lots of things I could have picked up, but I said, that's not right. You don't go to a graveyard with a shovel. And so I decided to never take anything.
What struck you most about its condition back then?
Yes, particularly as we got inside. And remember taking my robot down the promenade, and there was a first-class entrance for crew use only. And the funniest one was when we sent our little robot down where the grand staircase used to be, and we turned and a light came on in front of us. And, it just startled us. And as we went in, it was a chandelier reflecting our light back at us. And that was quite a moment when that light came on.
What's going through your head, and what are you feeling at that moment when you're going through the shipwreck?
Well, it was going back in time. You were on the Titanic, and the deeper you went into the ship, the more preserved it was. So it's a museum, and there's more history in the Deap-sea than all the museums of the world combined. The United Nations estimates there are 3 million shipwrecks, 3 million chapters of human history, far back into time. I found Roman shipwrecks and Greek shipwrecks. And the ocean is an amazing museum, and the Titanic is one of the centerpieces of that museum. Oh, I've been back here many, many times. Like I say, I first came here when I was planning to search for the Titanic, and I wanted to learn more about it and immerse myself, and to be able to come to what's so wonderful about the exhibit here. It's at the very spot. You can see the outline of the Olympic and the Titanic. This is Titanic's home, and it's sort of in many ways back home. Well, they told me that they were going to redo the exhibit that we had done over 11 years ago, and talk about my dream and talk about the fact that I'm dyslexic, and it was really the gift of dyslexia that taught me how to find the Titanic. And so it was wonderful to go into the exhibit. I got to see it yesterday for the first time, And it brought back lots of memories, and I'm going to go later on in the day when no one is there and just be in the room and walk through that journey.
What's your initial impressions of the exhibit as a whole?
Well, the Titanic Belfast is unbelievable. I think I've sent several million people here. It's just so beautifully done. My favorite is just behind us, the grand staircase. It's done so beautifully, documenting the history of the ship all the way up to the present. And I hope to go back and film it in 360 degrees. So we're talking with the management here about creating a 360 degree experience so that you actually are there.
So more to come then?
Yes, so stay tuned.